Hello, Nigerians. Welcome to Governance Insights, where we break down certain concepts in politics and governance for you to understand. Now, we are going to talk about political measure versus electoral reform in respect to the 2027 general elections. We are all dissatisfied. Nigerians have this kind of discontent with the present government, especially following the conduct of the 2023 general elections. So many people are saying we need an electoral reform in order to correct the abnormalities of the last election, while others are saying, no, political measure, political alliances is more important. So to talk about this, I have a special guest in the person of Ibrahim Umaru Wase.
Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. Now, let's get to the gist of the program. You're welcome to this program. You are not a strange face here. But I want to, first of all, give us an insight into what a political merger, or should I say a political alliance, is all about. Are there general and contextual meanings to that concept?
Yeah, political merger from the name is generally the act of coming together of political forces to achieve a certain political goal. Okay. So in it, I believe is just the coming together of the political forces. When you have, for example, in the context of Nigeria, when you have political forces in political parties with their structures coming together, you know, it's not only popularity that wins elections sometimes. You need the people that are going to stand for you, because politics is kind of a tricky game. It is not just the people that cast vote, but also the people that stands and also understand the acts of the game. Once you lose any one of the variable mentioned, you are not going to get anywhere in politics. You need to have these three components working in coherent and consistent force to achieve your political aim. So political measure is the coming together, in a nutshell, of political forces to achieve a political goal.
Okay. Does it involve only political parties or other political organizations, such as civil society organizations, and then support groups? You know, we have, apart from political parties that seek for to control government, we have other, you know, informal political organizations. So the political measure, is it talking about only political parties coming together, or any other sense?
Not only political parties, although political parties form the umbrella upon which you are going to follow in any democratic society. Okay. But even in the context of Nigeria, we have different regions, different religions, different geopolitical zones that both have their own interests. Okay. In that case, you need to have that force that is going to unite these diverse institutions to come together and forge a common front.
All right. Now, the concept of political alliances is still confusing. There is still a confusion there, because in a democracy we have the multi-party system. And we are made to understand that the reason behind the multi-party system practiced in a democracy is to present the people, to furnish the people with differing or, you know, various ideas to make choices from. So each political party has what we call party ideology, different from that of another political party. So is the concept of political alliance or political measure not in conflict with the party ideology or the multi-party system? So if parties have different ideologies, is it possible for them to merge? Is it possible? What is the possibility?
It is possible. Although sadly, before I delve into it's the plausibility, and whether it is possible for the parties to unite, I think it's important to note that unity is not uniformity. So you can disagree and still unite to achieve a certain cost. So it is possible. Sadly, ideology is not entrenched in Nigerian politics. Most of the politicians are not they are not standing for any ideal. That's why you'll be seeing them running across political platforms, because the political platforms are not adhering to any ideal.
Yeah.
So the politics of ideology in general is not in Africa yet. We are not matured to reach that stage. For example, if you're looking at the United States of America, for example, you see similarity in governance when a Democrat, Democrat give to between the Democrats and even the Republicans. Yeah. Looking at George Bush administration and Donald Trump, both Republican, you see similarities in the way they govern. Looking at Donald Trump and Joe Biden, and Barack Obama and Joe Biden, you see similarities in the way they govern, coming all from the Democrat, because it is strictly an ideological based politics. Yeah. But in Nigeria, it is not like that. In Nigeria, it's not all about how to win election, and we gather forces together. Our democracy is not yet matured to that extent that would be strictly an idea base.
All right. Now, we witnessed the conduct of the 2023 general elections following, we saw the abnormalities there following an unprecedented, boisterous disposition amongst the young people. So therefore, one can surmise that there was a substantial ethnic cohesion, or should I say regional cohesion, in which was termed the obedient movement. Now, the common knowledge was that the electoral officials failed to transmit election results timely and as and when due. So because of that, surprisingly, the Labour Party scored the third position. Not even the second, but the third. So based on these abnormalities, one school of thought is saying that there must be an electoral reform if the 2027 election is to be meaningful. While another school of thought is saying no, political merger, political alliance amongst political parties, major opposition parties, they must come together if they are serious about overthrowing or bringing down the present government of APC. So which school of thought do you subscribe to?
I actually subscribe to both school of thought. We need both. But if we're going to arrange them in ascending order, I believe we need merger, then electoral reform. And I have my own reasons to back my hypothesis. I believe, first and foremost, you need to secure the trust of the people. In politics, just like war, it is not won by conviction, but it is rather secured by alliances, strategy, and foresight. So the practical aspect of politics is not about honor or ideal or doing what is right. If you want to do what is right, you must be there in the first place before doing what is right. Because in a socialist society, rule of law is a law defined by the ruling class. And the ruling class can never define any law that will contradict their own interests. So for you to change anything, and any law is subjected to the trickery, political trickery, is subjected to be bypassed by the political class. They might give you what you want and bypass it. So what's the essence of it in the first place? But once you gain the trust of the people to your side, then you start thinking about securing that numbers to your side. I want to be plain to you, without any political filter, without merger, there is no politician among the three top politicians that is going anywhere. Because looking at the makeup of the country and understanding the motive behind every region that controls the vote of every region, it is very easy to decipher that no candidates among the opposition, the top three, is going to stand on his own and win election come 2027. For example, northern part of Nigeria, the drive there is religion. although this factor is declining, but it is still there. While the factor in southern part of Nigeria is tribalism. So for you to have this conflicting opinion and to find a perfect balance and perfect equilibrium to win election, you need to have merger. And that's what happened 2015. Buhari had been contesting from 2011 to 2015. But he failed 3 times in 4 attempts. He won 1 when he understands that he is going nowhere on his own alone. He needs the political forces to come together. Because whether we like it or not, there are people behind the scene that are controlling the process. And it is not always that your vote counts. This political class influence the votes. And I believe that there are a lot of inaccuracies and discrepancies in our electoral process. But it is not as worse as we like to believe. There is some certain level that if achieved, it will be very, very hard to manipulate. For example, I'll give you an example with these 4 states. Plateau State, Nasarawa State, the Federal Capital Territory, Abuja, and Lagos. I'm giving you this example for you to understand the context. Lagos, for example, voted for Labour Party. Plateau State voted for Labour Party. Nasarawa State, although all the 4 states voted for Labour Party. Why is it so? Because the people there betted their bloods for Labour Party, not just supporting Labour Party. There is a difference between an ordinary support and betting a blood. When you bet a blood, nobody will dare even think of manipulating. Because in political rigging, in rigging election, you need these 2 institutions. Once you lose one, you need the other. The first one is the organized and accepted institution of governance in that state. Then second, you need the masses. Usually, politicians are appealing to the base emotion of fear, greed, revenge to conquer the people. So once you leave, the people are living in kind of confusion. They don't chart any path to follow. It is very, very easy to manipulate election there because the people are not clear about what they want. But once the people are clear of what they want, in the case of Plateau State, for example, they know who they want and they know who they want to vote. The only thing you do there is to reduce the vote. So in a case whereby the margin is so wide, I don't think there is anything that will make the sitting government to scale. So let's do this simple mathematics. All the 4 major candidates, the current president won in 12 states. Atiku Abubakar won in 12 states. Peter Gregory Obi won in 11 states plus the Federal Capital Territory, making it 12. And Konkosu won in 1 state, that's Kano. So the difference is in the influence of the party. The APC have more than 12 states, more than 20 state governors, and PDP have more than 10 state governors. NNPP have an influence in Kano, and Peter Gregory Obi is accepted across the board in the country. But I say something, popularity is not enough for you to win an election. You need this political class also to be on your side to some reasonable extent, even if not all of them, but a segment of them needs to be with you. So the advantage here is not to give you a state, but to give you the necessary requirement you need. In each and every state, you need 25% at least, a threshold by INEC. Because even if you have the popular vote, you need 25% in at least 2/3 of the states in the Federal Capital Territory. Going by that, you need alliance, looking at the makeup of the country. So after we get this, that's why you believe with me that no politician is talking about electoral reform. It is only from an activist lens of view that people are talking about electoral reform. But from a political perspective, you need merger, then electoral reform.
So merger first and electoral reform second.
Because we can undermine the advantage.
The 2015 election, because that was unprecedented at that time. It was the first time that a sitting government was unseated, overthrown by
the opposition.
We have three major political opposition parties, AC, CPC, and AMPP, merging together to defeat the government of Goodluck Jonathan. That was unprecedented. But some people are arguing that Jonathan was a kind of weak compared to Tinubu. Tinubu is much more stronger. And so, despite no matter any kind of alliance that the opposition parties now will, invent or come up with, Tinubu will also come up with his own plan. So what do you think about that? Do you think it's...
I think this the standpoint of pessimists, just those who want to believe in the negative always. But I believe that no matter how strong, and thinking that former President Goodluck Jonathan is a weakling doesn't carry any weight from either mathematical point of view, but from not only the mathematical point of view, but also the standpoint of common sense. Goodluck Jonathan, it takes a very brave heart to even concede defeats in the first place. He set standard that very few can achieve. So that speaks volume of his mental strength.
Okay.
Second of all, looking at what happened 2015, former President Buhari had, I think, lead in almost 20-something states. Where do you expect Goodluck Jonathan to manipulate the vote? I told you an instance yesterday. 2015 election in northern part of Nigeria, because the people betted bloods for that Buhari and Oshibanjo ticket. In some states like Bauchi State, people slept in the INEC office to make sure that their votes count. There is a phrase in Hausa, Akasa, Atsari, Araka, Ajira, which is translated as votes. Stand for your votes, defend your votes, and make sure your votes count. So in northern part of Nigeria, if we want to protect our votes, that's the simple thing we do. Make sure you stand on your polling unit. Vote. Make sure your votes count there. Make sure you protect your votes to the second data collection center in the wards. Yeah. Make sure you protect your votes there. Escort your votes to the third phase, that's local government. Protect your votes there and escort your votes to the states. Protect it there. I don't think if people are going to ascribe to that, there will be any form of manipulation from the...
And you mean the betting of blood didn't happen in the last election with the obedient wave?
It happens in some part of the country. It happens.
Most part of the country?
Not most. It happened, I would say, strictly in eastern part of Nigeria and some states in the north central. For example, in Jos and the FCT. And most of the states in southeastern part of Nigeria and some states in the Niger Delta. But sadly, in the core northern states, they don't even, that Igbophobia. Most of the people believe that, yes, this person has the pedigree, the track record, the capacity, and all of that. That's in the case of Peter Obi. But he's still an Igbo man. And I told you that they are appealing to the base emotion of fear. What will happen to us when he emerged? That's the simple thinking of an average northerner. So for us, the most important thing, I'm speaking now as a politician, is to de-weaponize the emotions of these people. by clearing their consciousness that this is a pan-Nigerian project, not an Igbo project or a Christian project, as they presume it to be. And that's the best thing to do in the core north. So in the core north, like most of the people, the simple question they used to ask is that among all the 4 presidential candidates, who has the pedigree, the experience of Buhari before he came into power in 2015? And to list some of the experiences that he had, he was the former head of state before 2015. He was a state governor. He was a minister of petroleum. He headed ITF, PTF, Petroleum Trust Fund, during Abacha's regime. Yeah. And he was the only a politician at the time vying for a key seat to not have a foreign bank account, to not own a house in either Abuja or Lagos. So that was what convinced an average northerner to think that Buhari is definitely the answer to our problem. So they voted for him and he failed them. So when you talk about integrity, it will be very hard for them to key into, most especially if there is that sense of fear in them. And that's the problem. That's actually where we need to work. After merger, we need electoral reform. Then the third thing is sensitizing the people and also de-weaponizing their identity. Because the politicians have weaponized our identity. They weaponize our identity to the extent that we feel it is our responsibility to protect them. While in reality, there is no hatred between these tribes. An average Nigerian loved an average Nigerian regardless of his tribe or religious affiliation. But they understand the concept of divide and conquer. If you didn't divide the people, you're not going to gain anything. In politics, we have what we call a SWOT analysis. What are your strengths, your weaknesses, your opportunities, and your strengths? And this SWOT analysis, in politics, the first thing you focus on is definitely what we call your stronghold. What is your stronghold? Your stronghold is where you are sure. That's where your strength lies. So this stronghold...
have swing states in the United States.
Yeah, swing state is the state that you don't predict what is going to happen there. Okay, yes, yeah. But stronghold, on the other hand, is where your strength lies, where you know if they hit me there, I'm going to hit them here. And sadly, they are statistically, psychologically, they are exponentially more unwise people than they are wise people. So the way to manipulate people is knowing how to impress their imaginations. That's where they say, if understanding the arts of impressing the imagination of the crowds is at the same vein understanding the arts of ruling them. So that's how politics is being played. The principal difference between political science and the arts of politics is political science sometimes resolved to politics as it should be, while the practical aspect of politics is not like that.
All right. Which one do you think is more feasible between electoral reform and merger? Because even in the merger aspect, there is no clear-cut understanding of who to be vice president to whom, between, even if Atiku and P2B will be merging. Of course, P2B, the obedience, people will call obedience, will not be happy if he becomes the vice president to Atiku. Atiku himself will not like to be vice president, of course. And even if Kwankwaso of the NMPP comes in, he will still want to be, the Oga, pata pata. So, but the electoral reform, more and more civil society and support groups are calling for it because they believe that it is more feasible and more attainable than the political merger. So they can persuade or go into, hobnobbing the lawmakers, get them to, enact this law before the 2027. So which one do you think is more feasible that people should be calling for?
In terms of feasibility, they are both feasible. But we should also look at the implications of both. And they are both feasible to achieve, though there are some hindrances on the path of achieving them. But also, you might achieve it, and it might end up yielding no results. In the case of electoral reform, we achieve an electoral reform, define electoral reform, but it is the least feasible, I bet you. Because we are not, the opposition are not the ones to decide what will happen. The people in power have like 70% of the control, because I believe in a federal system of government. The executive, the legislative, and the judiciary are supposed to work independently and autonomously to each other. But in Nigeria, reverse is the case. They are working together, and none of these three components is independent of each other. So in that case, in a country whereby people are being charged for protesting against bad governance, while some people are being celebrated, while they looted the treasury of their states, do you expect electoral reform bill that will be defined by maybe the opposition to be enacted into law? I don't think it is feasible looking at this lens. Because these laws we are talking about, we have the law interpreters, we have the lawmakers, and they are all dancing to the tune, sadly, of the federal government, the executives. So, and most of this electoral reform is going to work against the interests of the people in power. So, do you see any feasibility in that happening? It is a question to you and also to Nigerians. But merger, on the other hand, I would like to use the word collaboration, not compromise, because there is a difference between collaboration and compromise.
What's the difference?
Compromise is a situation whereby you agree that I'm not going to reach. I agree that I'm not going to get what I want. Then we meet at the middle stage. While collaboration is I bring my strengths, you bring your strengths, and we use our strengths together to achieve what we want. So we need collaboration, not compromise in Nigeria. So if these forces will come together, and all of them, they are statesmen in their own right, they should put the interests of Nigerians first. Look at what is better, what is good for Nigerians, and undo their own mistakes that they did previously to Nigerians. Like Nigeria is a country with one of the highest youth population. 70% of the country's population are youths below the age of 30. What are you preparing for the future of these youths? That's the question. Most of them, they are over 60. They are in their retirement age. What do you prepare? What are you going to leave as a legacy? Forget about the money, because true legacy is not in the wealth or fame, but in the legacies you leave behind, in the positive changes you impact people. So what are they going to leave? So to me, the opposition needs collaboration. Come together and chart a way forward. Decide, and it is more feasible, because the only thing is the clash of interests. Maybe this one will say, I am supposed to be. This one will say, I am supposed to be. That's why I say they should put their interests aside and think about the interests of the country first. If we achieve the interests of the country, maybe our interests will be served. All of them, they served at different capacity. For example, Kwankwaso was a former governor, former minister, and former senator. On the other hand, Atiku Abubakar was former vice president and also former head of custom. Peter Gregory Obi was former governor of Anambra State and a business tycoon, a successful businessman. So they served the country at their respective capacities. It is a time for them to chart a way forward for Nigerians, because the fate of Nigeria lies on their shoulders.
That's good. The word is collaboration, not any form of that. All right, but in your final words, of course, you said that merger and electoral reform are both needed, but merger is more important. But I would like you to, in a few words, tell Nigerians or the government what are the things needed to be changed in our electoral system so that it could be more streamlined in the next election. Your final words.
I believe the thing that needs to be improved is the electronic transmission that failed during the past election, and billions of naira was spent on it. We need an electronic transmission of vote, and also a digitalized voting system. What do I mean by digitalized voting system? Like in United States of America, you didn't need to go to the pool to vote. All you need is a smartphone to vote. So, and we need also to create a platform that Nigerians in diaspora will have the right to vote, will have a platform to vote, because we are literally. I even lose the words to use there. Yeah. Disfranchising them, because they are not voting and they are contributing to the economy of the country in a big way. So I think digitalizing the system will make them to have a platform to vote, because they have the right to vote also.
All right. Thank you. Ibrahim Umaru Wase, thank you for gracing this discussion. Of course, we need both political merger and electoral reform so that the 2027 election will be a desirable one. We have come to the end of this conversation. Hope you liked it. If you did, please hit the like button, make your comments, and then subscribe to the Diaspora Digital Media for more exciting discussions. I am Tochku Raphael. Have a nice day.